This is my Valentine, and you're watching Stephen Blocker's channel.
Filler in anime is just something that comes with the territory. It's a necessary element for a series running concurrent with the manga. It's a hotly debated topic, as some people don't really mind it, and even finding that it can enhance the story, while other people outright hate it to the point they skip it completely. In fact, there's even websites dedicated to logging all filler episodes in the series so people can skip them. But filler is also more time we get to spend with the cast, so it definitely has some merit. Some people like filler, and sometimes it can genuinely even be as good as the canon material. But what makes good filler, and what makes bad filler? That's a question with many different answers. However, I think good filler is something that is engaging, experiments with things that we don't really see in the canon, maybe even to the point it doesn't even feel like filler. Or it gives minor characters things to do who would have just vanished otherwise. The ideal way to do filler, in my opinion, is during lull points or time gaps in the story. That's easily the best timing for it, as it gives room for us to breathe between major storylines, as manga tend to go from arc to arc without much downtime. While anime, on the other hand, generally likes to take breaks with low-stakes stories in between major storylines, since the landscape between manga and anime is so different. Compare it to an RPG game. Manga tends to reflect the kind of playthrough where you just go from main quest to main quest, while anime tends to represent the playthrough where you go through and enjoy the side content. That is how I view anime filler, the side quests the heroes get into, or the things we don't see when the proverbial camera is filming. We don't see every second of the character's day. Who's to say these filler events don't actually happen when the cameras aren't recording? Now, bad filler tends to feel just like that. Padding with zero substance and downright interrupts the storyline. It feels invasive, like an unskippable ad, or dedicating an entire episode to waiting at the DMV. That's how bad filler feels. Here's an example of bad filler. The fake Namek story arc in Dragon Ball Z. It was a little more obvious to me that this was filler because my first exposure to Dragon Ball Z was the video games. You see, in the video games, like the first Dragon Ball Z Budokai, they cover the story, but don't touch any of the filler stuff. So when I saw fake Namek on Toonami for the first time, I instantly knew it was fake because, let's just say, I knew what real Namek was, and instantly knew, this ain't it, Chief. But then, you have clear-cut padding. Filler that is genuinely just a time waster. Stopping the action and dedicating a whole episode to nonsense like Goku getting his driver's license, Chi-Chi rounding up the old Dragon Ball crew to go to Namek, or Goku's ship running into a meteor shower on the way to Namek, causing a hole he has to fix. Now don't get me wrong, some of the stuff was definitely entertaining, but it's still filler. And not just that, painfully obvious filler. And this sucks, especially if you watch weekly and don't have access to streaming or DVDs. However, for this type of anime, I feel like one series definitely handled mandatory filler the best. That being Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. Now granted, it does fall into the same pitfalls as other filler-heavy anime, at times. I stress that, at times. Looking at the episode count, about 40% of the series is filler. So that is a lot, but the way it does it isn't as bad as other series. Most filler tends to fall on the random nonsense happening to waste your time, like a scam bait. Yu-Gi-Oh! Filler actually makes an effort to either tie back to canon material or have relevance to other filler, So when the time comes for more filler, it's still somewhat relevant to something that happened before, and not just a huge big-lipped alligator moment. So that's why I'm here. I'm going to go through all of Yu-Gi-Oh's filler and explain why I think Yu-Gi-Oh isn't just the king of games, it's the king of wasting your time efficiently. Yu-Gi-Oh filler often does connect to the story, and will even be referenced in manga canon episodes at times, or follows up on plot points that ended up unresolved or had underwhelming conclusions in the manga. And often it even feels like it's part of the plot, and you won't even notice it's filler until you actually look up a guide. Also, I will only be counting filler and anime original content. Manga to anime changes are a different topic. I will also not be counting duels that are rewritten as filler, because if I did, we'd be here all day. Just for example, duels in the anime feature a lot more turns than they do in the manga. Like in the duel with Weevil versus Joey. For example, in the anime, Weevil uses Great Moth, and he has this whole troll life point gain strategy that is never used in the manga at all. Starting with Season 1, the first filler episode is the duel with Bakura. Yami Bakura had been like a ghost spotted around the island randomly. Then he makes his appearance in a shadow game where the protagonists fight and cosplay as their favorite monsters. Now debatably, this is technically canon, as a very similar event does happen in the manga. Not involving the card game, but rather an original tabletop RPG that Bakura is implied to have invented. This was actually the last episode of Season 0, or the original Toei series, whatever name you prefer. The timing is just changed to be here, since obviously the Duel Monsters anime started when the Duel Monsters card game took over. In fact, the only sign that this is filler is something that happens in the previous episode that sets up something in the very next episode, so we have to wait one whole episode to get the conclusion to that story. Mai vs. Taya is also filler, as they don't actually duel in the manga. So yeah, this could be seen as padding, but it's one episode, so it's not that bad, and it gives a full duel to Mai Valentine, my personal favorite character, so I can forgive it. And it also really helps add more to the situation with Yugi, who's been emotionally devastated after his duel with Kaiba, and we also see more of Mai Valentine's deck before her duel in the finals with Yugi. And finally, for Duelist Kingdom, we have the actual final match of the tournament, Yugi vs. Joey for the crown jewel. In the manga, Joey just forfeits and lets Yugi win the whole tournament. The justification being so Pegasus, the final boss of the story arc, not being able to glean their strategy. But Pegasus literally saw Yugi duel Mai Valentine a few minutes ago. And what an anticlimax there. I hate when anime tournament arcs just kind of end like that. It's one of my biggest pet peeves. Finish the tournament we built up to. I want to see who wins. Why participate in the tournament if you're just going to surrender? The anime handles this so much better. We actually get a clear-cut winner. Plus, I like seeing Joey actually try to beat Yugi. He fails, obviously, but it's nice to see how far he came. Theoretically, what if Joey, over the course of Duelist Kingdom, had grown so much he could actually beat Yugi? Now, that's a borderline impossibility, but theoretically it could happen. In fact, this change in the anime works so well, I think it even benefits Joey's character development for the second season, when his goal in Battle City is to become a duelist on the equal level of Yugi. So really, that's all the filler of Duelist Kingdom. 4 episodes, and none of them really felt like filler. so we're off to a really good start here compared to other anime. Next up, we have 9 episodes of filler between the Duelist Kingdom and Battle City arc, featuring 3 mini storylines, which I'm a little more forgiving of, as we're in a lull period. You know, Duelist Kingdom was pretty intense, and then Battle City is the series' peak and probably the darkest it gets. So we need this break. Now, the quality of these mini arcs varies, but they're all lighter in tone and feature a bratty child challenging Yugi's grandpa, a Sword Art Online style virtual quest, and Joey being forced to wear a dog suit after losing to a guy with a harem of cheerleaders. Yeah, less dramatic than Grandpa getting his soul taken, am I right? But these mini arcs also feel important. Rebecca, said bratty child, ends up becoming a key player down the road in a filler arc. For better or worse, I know she's not a very popular character. The VR quest is also an expansion, as the Big Five, who've been colluding with Pegasus and served as contributing behind-the-scenes antagonists in Duelist Kingdom, end up just getting fired in the manga. Here, they're the final boss, and will come up again later. So these minor filler arcs are planting the seeds for bigger filler arcs way down the road. Plus, not to mention, I feel like just firing these guys is anticlimactic and unsatisfying. This is Yu-Gi-Oh, and we settle things with duels, not just getting fired. And then the last of this is Dungeon Dice Monsters, which is technically canon, but it's also part of this mini transitional story arc before we get to Battle City. Moving on to Battle City, and it's more of the same, mostly canon, with random irrelevant moments sprinkled in, but unlike Duelist Kingdom, these are not naturally woven into the story. However, they are thankfully short, mostly clocking in at 1 episode each. For example, we have Taya versus some random smug dancer guy who cheats at an arcade dance game that's totally not Dance Dance Revolution, even though Konami owns Dance Dance Revolution, so go figure. And because he cheats, Yugi challenges him to a duel because Yu-Gi-Oh logic. That's all I gotta say for that. Technically, Bakura vs. Bones in this arc is mixed manga canon and filler. The story surrounding the duel is canon, but the duel itself is not, as it's kind of like the match between Tenten and Tamari in the Chunin exams in Naruto. If you remember in the manga in that duel, we're not actually shown the full fight, we're just shown the ending. Well, it's the same principle here with the Yu-Gi-Oh manga, how we only ever see the ending of that duel. Here, in the anime, we get the full duel. And then, most randomly, the most blatant filler in this arc, My Valentine faces off with some slick Hollywood movie star named Jean-Claude Magnum who wants to marry her. Hey, wait a minute, that's my waifu. Pause off, Magnum. He's an obvious parody of the real-life Jean-Claude Van Damme, but they don't even give him a Belgian accent. Come on, 4Kids, you put random accents on all these other characters. But as I stated earlier, My Valentine is my all-time favorite Yu-Gi-Oh character, and I don't mind. She really needed this win. But the most obvious blatant filler in this arc, we have a recap episode. An old anime tradition, and I think it's the only full dedicated recap episode in the series. Recap episodes, for those unaware, are episodes that do just that, mostly using flashbacks to summarize the plot of the series so far. They serve a few purposes. One is to catch people up who hadn't been around or able to watch the series regularly, and the other is to help the anime production team either save time or money for new episodes. So really, a recap episode is more so just a freebie, a week of extra time to work on more episodes in the future. Also, funnily enough, The Japanese version of the anime, like most anime around this time, has one of those on the next episode previews at the end credits. And when it's time for this one to be hyped up, it really is funny to see them try and make this sound as epic and cool as possible. So I recommend checking that out if you ever want to watch the Japanese version of the anime. So, okay, a little bit more in the obvious filler category, but nothing so insane and intrusive that it detracts from the story. Just random one-off dueling misadventures. And once we're on the way to the finals, there's no filler. Yep, none at all. We just go through the whole tournament, the whole Battle City Finals, from beginning to end, with no filler. Yep, that's what we totally do. Nope, that didn't happen. No, you don't exist. Go away. Alright, time to talk about the elephant in the room. The most notorious Yu-Gi-Oh filler, the Noah Virtual World arc. You can't praise Yu-Gi-Oh's filler without bringing this up. This arc pretty much erased all the goodwill the series had built up to being pretty strong with its filler. Yeah, in the worst timing ever, we're thrown into a filler spot, a 24 episode one too. Right in the middle of a huge tournament where several of our beloved characters had been rendered comatose. Mai, Bakura, all out of the action. So we went from this huge nail-biter that kept us invested to see what would happen next, and we just lost all of it for this side quest. Fun fact about me, this arc, all the way back in the day, in my original watch of the series, yeah, this is the arc that killed my interest in the show. I tried to keep up with it. I tried to keep watching every week, but I hated it. Because it basically stopped everything. All the good stuff we've been building up to was gone. All to have the protagonists face off with the big five that I mentioned earlier. The faceless suits that Kaiba fired for colluding with Pegasus, all the way back in the Duelist Kingdom arc. And now they're antagonists of this arc. Fans reacted, at best, with apathy and pure anger at worst. Imagine if we were in Dragon Ball Z. They did the fight with Nappa. Goku defeats Nappa, but it's too late as Nappa had already pretty much taken out all of Goku's friends. So then right before the fight with Vegeta, we get reports of Emperor Pilaf or the Red Ribbon Army. They suddenly came back, and now we have to wait patiently for Goku and Vegeta to fight. Yeah, if that happened in Dragon Ball, that'd be about the equivalent of what happened here. Now, to be fair, this arc could have been salvaged. Why? Well, imagine if it took place before the finals started. Instead of getting us all hooked into the tournament, and then the filler happened, what if we got into the filler arc before the finals of the Battle City tournament started? They all arrive at the location, but then Noah stops them before the duels can start. It could have worked as the people who had been knocked out earlier, like Bakura and Mai, could have actually helped and pitched in. Instead of having Serenity, or Mokuba, or Taya have to take over the starring role after mostly being supporting characters throughout the series. You could have had Mai Valentine return. It's a thought. I mean, she did help defeat the Big Five in episode 45, so... Or heck, you could have had Bakura actually have an appearance in filler. Fun fact, despite being the main antagonist of the series, Yami Bakura never shows up in any filler. So yeah, the worst timing for filler ever, and the first to be unwanted and genuinely feel like filler. So far, everything else felt like an expansion, but at least it connects with something from earlier. the big five, so that's the only praise it's going to get. Thank the Lord, because once it's over, there's almost no filler for the rest of the Battle City tournament. Except for this duel with Kaiba and Joey for third place, it's genuinely really a good duel, and it gets points for being unpredictable, as either Joey or Kaiba could have been the winner here. One of the few times in the series where the result could go either way, and it's naturally woven into the story. There's also this goodbye episode that serves as a recap, but we've grown attached to these characters, so it's appropriate to me, as this would be the last time we see a lot of these characters. After that, we have the longest stretch of filler in the series, 56 episodes, encompassing the Doma arc and the Grand Prix arcs. I know it's more than double the length of the Virtual World arc that I just made fun of earlier. But hear me out. Battle City is over. The story is in a lull point, again, so it's the perfect timing. All the stakes from Battle City have been resolved, and there's not really anything to interrupt, so it's truly the perfect timing to do a little more filler. Plus, these arcs experimented with a lot of things, like following up on My Valentine's story, who was a fan favorite that kind of just disappeared in the manga, and having Yugi actually lose a duel, resulting in good Yugi disappearing from his body. Not to mention, this is Yugi's actual first loss. His first legit loss. Not counting that surrender against Rebecca. Now, I'm not here to talk about the quality of these arcs, because this is not a review of them as a story, just as filler and their timing in Yu-Gi-Oh's storyline. They fit well, like filler should, but I also think these two arcs were kind of necessary. It may not feel like it, because it's only the second arc of Yu-Gi-Oh, but Battle City is actually meant to be the penultimate arc of the series, which would really suck if it just ended after 3 arcs. I love this show, but giving us more time with the cast that we love is a nice touch from the writers. I don't want to say goodbye after just 3 story arcs. I want more than that. So, that's Yu-Gi-Oh's filler. It had a lot, I won't deny that. But there was only really one truly bad and invasive filler arc. And the rest was either done in the right moments or felt organic, like they were just part of the canon. So in conclusion, Yu-Gi-Oh! Definitely handled its filler better than most anime. Filler is a necessary beast, as the famous Gintama moment pointed out. You basically have to create what has to be the point 1.5 on the timeline, with point 1 and point 2 being the canon chapter. It's not perfect, but show me the anime that is.